all. Uh, Pick one. You.
Wow, that is very loud.
Huh? That was a recreation of the first time I played The Path a decade ago. Oh, God, I'm old. As weird as it seems, and safe to say I was confused, I treasure that memory. We've all had a game that we did not expect to encounter, and that was either so cool or so strange that it left a permanent mark on your life. I've had several in the time of the PS1 and GameCube, and going through art school, several more films and PC games. I received a totally legal copy of The Path back then, and have not forgotten it since. The mix of simple but colorful visuals, the weird and striking music, obscure symbolism, it's right up my alley. And that's why I'm here today to tell you that it's not a game I can really recommend. Wait, there's a big asterisk here, hold on. Unless you are really into artsy games and are slightly masochistic. Anyway, I at least want to show you, or rather tell you and show you, that this game is interesting, because it is at least that, to observe it like a strange creature in the wild. This game is made by A Tale of Tales and released in 2009. I'm playing the Steam version, but I had it on the Macintosh at first. I know, it's great. Well, the entire school needed only Mac stuff. It was strange, to say the least. The story is essentially Red Riding Hood, but dark, and flavored with, at least on the tin, psychological horror, and also lots of symbolism. You pick between 6 versions of Red Riding Hood, each named a different word for red. It doesn't impact each run too much, but we'll get to that. The red you pick is dropped off by what sounds like a bus at the abrupt end of a paved road in the woods. Y'all couldn't just finish this one road for that one house on the path? Was it that troublesome? Your only instruction is to go to Grandma's house and follow the path. If you're a loser, you're a loser! Nah. The cool kids ignore that and go exploring. You get a wolf to find. What, you think that bit at the end of the first tree video was a joke? The wolf in this case is different for each version of Red Riding Hood. 5 are metaphorical while 1 is literal. The key takeaway phrase here is not all wolves have fur and claws, if I'm remembering correctly. Along the way, there are various objects scattered throughout the forest that each red can interact with. Some objects are reserved for certain reds, but most are universal. If an object is for a certain red, you will see the transparent portrait of said character on the screen. If you want to find all the objects, do so before you find your wolf, because you can't go back once you do. Well, you can, but it takes a while. How you interact with an object is simple. Don't press anything once you're near it. I actually like that control style a lot. I'm going to harp on the technical stuff in a second, but I just wanted to note that that's actually kind of cool. Having the player interact by not pressing a button is actually kind of an interesting approach. It makes you really examine it or pause before you have to interact with it. Each object you find opens up a room in Grandma's house that, at least symbolically, expands on each red's theme and implied backstory. And I use the term implied backstory very lightly. If you need help finding objects or locations, you can collect glowing flowers on the ground that, after around 10-ish, highlight the next object on your heads-up display, which is something that I actually really like about this game. So technical stuff. Your display is very minimal to help the player focus on the scenery and atmosphere. Objectives will be marked by 3 main things. Black scratches, or black scratch marks, are the direction of the wolf in question, and little white drawings that show you the next objective for that particular red. I do like the fact that they keep it very minimal, so all you're focusing on is either holding WASD and shift or mouse. This is where I segue where the game falls a bit flat. On a technical level, this game is great at doing what it needs to do. Even on a thematic level, the atmosphere is very present, and helped along by the soundtrack. A weird mix of strings and voices that seem to come from nowhere, repeating and overlapping at random times. It's really cool and disorienting for the first 10 minutes, but it still has a nice, off feel to it. It doesn't quite feel like a normal forest walk, and once you leave the path, you don't see it again unless you can literally run in one direction for a long time, and the path that was there just shortly ago is gone. I think it's really cool. It throws off your sense of direction. This game has an instruction guide that comes with the Steam port, and I must emphasize that the part about this being a slow game, well, it means it. But this is somewhat balanced by how short each red's run can be. You can be 10 minutes or an hour depending on how your patience level is, but if you're like me, this slow pace can be infuriating. And before you ask, there is a run button that has 2 disadvantages. After sprinting for a few seconds, usually about 4 or 5, the music gets all violin heavy and your screen turns blurry and you get a heartbeat that comes on. It is meant to basically mimic the idea of rushing around and getting, tense or worried while running around, which makes sense, but it doesn't really help along with the same violins going in your ear. Secondly, you can no longer see the glowing flowers. If you're sprinting, you can run right over them and not pick them up. So what I did in this game was sprint for a few seconds, stop, look around, sprint again. It's best not to miss stuff, but you really do have to take your time with this one. And yes, I do think it's a positive in some ways. It makes you explore the environment in a slow, purposeful approach. It gets samey after all the runs of the Reds, but I don't mind that it's slow. And there is a map. That was it. Every 100 meters you travel in the woods, you get a brief flash of a path that you traveled, and it's up to you to determine where that is based on your current surroundings. There are glowing lines on the ground, or glowing paths too, but they're less helpful than you'd think. All this to say that you're going to get lost in the woods, and that is, unironically, the point. If you don't like walking simulators or slow games, you won't like this. And honestly, I didn't at first either, but I think the path occupies a specific niche. We've heard the phrase games are art, and this is an art piece that wears the mask of a game. It's not even the fine line thing anymore, this is art. You start by approaching it as a game, slowly moving to confusion, and then to a slow experience of something a painting can convey. I don't think it's meant to be fun in the conventional sense. It's a mood you embrace and let it cover you like a blanket, and in that madness, I grew to enjoy it. Once you get past the barrier of the slow pace and slow gameplay loop, there's something here. It's a heavily symbolic and almost sort of a horror-ish with a touch of psychological warping. It's not really a horror per se, but it's definitely got flavors of horror in this wine. A passion project that nailed a specific aesthetic and execution so accurately that despite its clumsiness, I think it's something special. Look, I got a touch of Stockholm Syndrome while playing this, I just want to talk about it, alright? Just let me rant. This experience is a story of 6 girls who rebel against the cut and dry expectations set upon them, at least to me. There's no stated or written story or lore, but each ending has a general consensus about the history and actions of each Red. Each object they interact with shows the attitude of each Red, and how they see life, and by extension why the wolf, of their wolf anyway, matters. I like to at least show you the endings in case you don't want to subject yourself to this madness, but I think it's at least cool to watch, so bear with me. Ginger's dialogue and interactions all tell of someone who loves to run and explore. Not necessarily for the love of nature, but for the act of play and being the best at it. Not that there's much to do in the woods, but sure, go for it. Crawl through that conspicuously placed fence segment, not out of the way at all.
You cannot stop me. I am never still. I'm faster than the fastest fly and quicker than a bug. Now you see me, now you don't.
Her wolf is both a friend to play with and also, I guess it's phrasing young love between girls as taboo? I'm not sure on that one. For someone as old and oppressive as this game's grandma, I guess that makes sense. Now that the wolf can be seen as a good thing to Red, in this case because she has a friend to play with or be with, but can lead to being bitten in a sense on a closer look. You'll see that in other Red's endings more than Ginger. The house each Red walks through at the end changes to fit each character, each ends in their implied death. Rose is obsessed with nature and its beauty, and kind of pretentious on how she portrays it.
The dead go in the dirt while their souls fly to the sky. To be in the mist, to be missed, to be missed. To miss is to be.
Find a poetry contest somewhere, it will do you a lot more good. Her head is in the clouds, and she's basically Snow White in this narrative. Her wolf, I think, is more of a temptation, but is essentially a mist spirit in the middle of the lake. She takes a boat to get there, and I can't explain this one. I can at least say she's got lost in nature and possibly drowned. Maybe that's what they're going for. There's maybe 3 examples of heavy symbolism, and this is one of them. I'm counting Grandma's house as one collective symbolism based for ease of talking, but yeah, mist person, I guess, takes her into the mist and dies. I'm not sure on that one. Carmen is about celebrating life and what she does, dancing on stage, being lazy sometimes and enjoying it, denying death, etc. Careless in some sense and free in some others. Her wolf is, in my opinion, twofold. She is enamored by a woodsman in the random part of the woods who is moving backwards, if the footage is correct. He's a real looker there. Anyway, beer gets you in the loose mindset, so celebrating in a sense, and going along with the temptation of a random guy who happens to be a lumberjack. Girl, he ain't even hot, alright? Although, based off of the house tour at the end, they absolutely bone. Did you do it? Wait, did you do it at Grandma's house? Also, it's equally implied that he axed her, literally. Scarlet is about being refined and orderly. She thinks chaos, and to an extent nature, is antithetical to order and therefore must be wrong. She is looking nice, though. Love your Neo Red Riding Hood style. I really dig that. But she is the most stuck up of all of them.
A serenade in the woods. Somebody's playing my song. Long, slim fingers gently caress the keys of me.
Her wolf seems equally twofold. She learns the art of playing the piano, a high-class trait, and is metaphorically ensnared by an overly controlling piano tutor. Could it be the instructor or the grind of being a pianist that kills her? Either way, death by piano, so... Ruby is the bad girl, trademark, that wears a leg brace. Ironically, this makes her the fastest red in the bunch. Like, I sprinted like no one's business with her, and it was amazing to help me find the flowers. Ruby has a smug attitude towards the world and other people. Her dialogue includes lines about keeping the idiots away. Those may be only in her head. But she sees a lot of people as just not worth her time or beneath her. And yet, her wolf, in a way, goes against that attitude. I put goesn't, Goesn' here. Goesn't against that attitude. Her wolf goes against that attitude of seeing everything as beneath you, etc., because she is enamored by a hot guy in the playground that is shown to be dangerous because he's dragging a body bag. Kill them, and why is that at a playground? She is tempted by the invitation of a cigarette and lets herself be bitten or taken in by this guy who, by all rights, shouldn't she see him as idiots or beneath her? We do see more school-themed imagery with her, though, and a crashed car. Is that from the guy? Is that how she injured her leg, or is that how she died? Or was she killed by a more personal means? Robin is the stereotypical image of Red Riding Hood. She is happy to explore the forest and is wide-eyed about everything, even in the graveyard, which is coincidentally where the only literal wolf in the game is. You have been eating a lot, Mr. Wolf. You looking chubby, but I dig it. I respect. Robin sees no danger in her childlike innocence. And all the better to eat you with, my dear. But we're not quite done yet. There's been this girl in a white dress running around the forest with you. Her main job is to take you back to the main path if you can find her, or stand still for long enough. At least usually, the instruction guide says you stay still long enough and your red should summon her by being helpless, but apparently that didn't happen to me, so... what do I know? She's a glimmer of hope or help in a forest of confusion and strange objects. She never says anything, and it's just as mysterious as the wolves in her own way. After you get all the reds killed, the girl in white becomes the only playable character. She doesn't have any movement restrictions. There's no violin interruptions, no screen going blurry, no heartbeat. She just runs where she wants. The girl in white can see all the key locations in the game. Usually each red you pick has about one or two that they can see, other than the instructions guide says 3, but I've only seen 1 or 2. But there are 6 locations available in the game in total. The girl in white can go to all of them and pick up a key item that represents each red. I didn't because I lack the patience, but you can, is what I'm saying. It's kind of cathartic to finally have the chance to sprint around and collect any stars or just explore the woods. You won't be interacting with the same objects as the reds because the girl in white can't do that, but you're not looking for a wolf this time, at least not the usual ones. Your only job here is to, ironically, go to Grandma's house. This time around, it's just the rooms that each red died in. You walk through them, and at the end, you see Grandma, still in bed. You sit down with her, and she finally opens her eyes. You end up back at the apartment, the girl in white with blood in her dress. Her wolf was never in the woods. One by one, the reds return, ready for another run through the woods. Girl in white exits, and from the top. This game is a huge load of symbolism, and it's hard to make sense of, aside from the Red Riding Hood symbolism. It's made all the more confusing by the instructions with the game itself. The characters in this game apparently are being controlled by the drama princess, but we never see the puppeteer. Is this a playset? A stage? Is it to entertain us or this princess? Is it hell? Are we dead? Is this like living out the things we did in life, but metaphorically? Is that what we're doing? Seek out what you want, give in to temptation. It could be your doom, but you won't know until you try. And maybe your elders are too cautious in their warnings, but you might heed their words after all. You may have a savior when you need them, but to what end will that savior go to keep you safe? Thank you for your patience in listening to this rant. This game isn't your cup of tea, probably, but while it's clumsy in some ways, I think it's notable in its atmosphere and visuals and themes. It's an experience that, as the instructions say, is slow, and that can be a good thing. I'm not going to say this is the best game because it's artsy or deep and I can't necessarily recommend it offhand, but I think it's a special experience. It should be preserved for the unique approach it takes. It's art in the way I wish museums would be. Simple on the surface, but with plenty of room for interpretation. A bit uncomfortable, perhaps, but what good art isn't? If you want numbers, 6 out of 10. But still, thumbs up. And if you'll excuse me, I have a lost ember to find before my fire goes out. Oh, there it goes. Huge shout out to our patrons Jack Cooper, Ninja Blade, Kit Nightwood, and Too Much Desu. You're all amazing and badass, and I love you. If you got some dosh to spare and wish to help support the channel, we have the link in the description to our Patreon, and we also have memberships if you wish to help join the channel. You get some sweet emotes, and we're working on more awards, but you don't have to, but we do appreciate the support, and it helps a long way to everyone on the channel. Have a good rest of your day, and if you're watching this on your lunch break, thank you, and may you have the strength and sanity to get back to work and not go crazy. I've already been there, it's great. Anyway, bye!